Welcome back to Tipton Bros. Today, we'll be discussing the American Convair XFY Pogo experimental fighter. Design, development, service history, and specifications will be provided. Before we begin, I must disclose that I am no expert and never claim to be. Now, let's get into it. Innovation did not cease for the United States following the conclusion of the Second World War. In fact, it may have intensified. With hostilities mounting between the US and the Soviet Union, both nations scrambled for the upper hand, not to be outdone. This struggle for advancement in military technology would lead to unorthodox and bizarre platforms, the likes of which the world had never seen. The Convair XFY Pogo is one such aircraft, a product of the Cold War. Aeronautic development in early 1950 had turned to a relatively old but novel idea: vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, abbreviated as VTOL. While the vertical takeoff concept was attempted on previous occasions, it had never been perfected pertaining to fixed-wing aircraft. The potential upside of a fighter exploiting vertical takeoff and landing was too great for the United States Navy to overlook. In May of 1951, a contract was issued to both Lockheed and Convair for two experimental VTOL fighters, totaling 4 designs. Stipulations for the contract were moderately loose, and each manufacturer was left to their own devices, eventually submitting 1 aircraft apiece. Lockheed would present the XFV and Convair the XFY, gifted the moniker of Pogo, both platforms utilizing a tail-sitter design. Test flight for the XFY would commence on April 19, 1954, with the Pogo being piloted by Lieutenant Colonel James Francis Coleman. Initial trials were performed with an attached tether in place of the hub cover and 2 cables fastened to either wing. Tethered indoor testing was held at Moffett Field in Mountain View, California for nearly 4 months, being conducted out of a naval airship hangar. Coleman would quickly grow accustomed to the fighter, and in August of 1954 would attempt the first outdoor unassisted flight. The XFY-1 would lurch off the ground and reach 150 feet in altitude, before gradually descending back to the runway. This was no small undertaking, as Coleman had logged almost 100 tedious hours behind the controls of the XFY Pogo, not to mention the frequent takeoff and landing drills he endured. November 5th of that same year, the XFY-1 Pogo successfully bridged the gap from vertical takeoff into horizontal flight. While this was a step in the right direction, it also presented Convair engineers with an entirely new set of challenges. The Pogo proved to be agile, but lacked adequate drag when necessary, failing to reduce its speed in a timely manner. The tail-sitter platform omits both air brakes and spoilers from the aircraft. This, coupled with the XFY-1's extremely light weight, was a ticking time bomb. The Pogo was also exceptionally tricky to control, demanding the full attention of only the most competent pilots. Landing being the main culprit, as the operator had to look over their shoulder in order to land the fighter safely. These hurdles would be insurmountable, soon snuffing out the project entirely. The XFY-1 Pogo would make its final flight in November of 1956. Although the Pogo's fall from grace was swift, its legacy remains, being a landmark of space-age, futuristic fighters. Maximum speed of the Pogo topped out at 475 miles per hour at an optimal power altitude of 15,000 feet. Service ceiling sat at a remarkable 37,500 feet, with a range of 500 miles, or 430 nautical miles. Range was short, but more than sufficient for the XFY's intended role as a scramble fighter and interceptor launched from the deck of aircraft carriers. The Pogo utilized one Allison YT-40 A6 turboprop engine. This hulking system produced an estimated 5,100 shaft horsepower, in turn operating the 6-bladed, constant-speed, contra-rotating propeller. The XFY-1 had a total length of 32 feet, which also serves as the height, and a wingspan of 27 feet, 8 inches. Gross weight was 14,250 pounds. Compact for its power output maybe, but an extremely hefty aircraft which can be attributed to the engine weight. The Pogo also displayed imposing armament, employing 4 20mm cannons fixed to the horizontal wingtip pods, 2 in either pod. These cannons could be swapped for 48 2.75-inch folding fin aerial rockets, 24 in each wingtip. These were unguided, solid-fuel rockets, known as the Mark IV FFAR. more lovingly referred to as Mighty Mouse. Effectiveness in combat was questionable, but if nothing else, an interesting arrangement. Luckily, the sole completed XFY1 Pogo prototype in existence escaped the scrapyard, eventually being displayed at the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., where it remains today. I hope you've enjoyed today's brief overview of the American Convair XFY Pogo experimental fighter. We are a small channel, so a like is greatly appreciated, and recommendations are always welcome. Again, I am no expert and never claim to be. Until next time, on Tipton Bros.